বিভিন্ন প্রভাবিত বিষয়গুলো নিয়ে আলোচনা করব তাদের সাথে। কারণ আপনার ইউর ওয়েলকাম টু একাত্তর।
Thank you very much, Kazi, for the invite.
Our viewers are waiting to hear for environment from people, World Bank people like you, because you know for the last 10 years, what I see as a journalist, awareness of environment is growing, and it's very sharply growing. You are in Bangladesh. You told me about the 10 years back. You work in the water resource sector. If you say the 10 years back and now, what is the difference in the environment practice, environment awareness, and the activation?
When I used to come a lot to Bangladesh, which was for 7 years in the 2000s, there was already quite some awareness on environmental issues, but what I have found now that I've come back for the first time after 8 years, there is much increased awareness of environmental issues. And I also find that there is a strong willingness to do something about environmental issues. But at the same time, I also see that some issues have worsened, like the air quality in Dhaka is not as good as it was some 8 years ago.
You see, the World Bank works with many industrial subsectors that you help, you facilitate. Social awareness environment is okay, it's going and satisfactorily growing. What is your observation about the industries, about the awareness and the implementation of environment activities?
Well, what I'm seeing is that there is, on the one hand, there is some more awareness. I know that a number of industries are trying to implement more environmentally friendly activities, but others are not. And often it's the smaller ones, the ones that cannot really afford to change their processes. They might want to do that, but they cannot do it. So there's still a lot of pollution that is going on in a number of industries, be it water pollution or be it air pollution. And while it is changing, which I think is a very good thing, there's still a lot to do.
But one thing, what you referred, the air pollution, it's 1% of GDP is drained by air pollution. The fact is the Bangladeshi industries predominantly is the garment manufacturing and similar things. These industries are not very much air pollutant, as like steel and other industry. Do you see the environment awareness and the implementation activities in the garment and textile industries are okay? What is observation from World Bank?
I have not seen anything in particular during this visit, but what is very clear is that worldwide, and including in other South Asian countries, there is a push now by the buyers to that type of industries that they are more environmentally friendly. So the more and more there is a push that the sourcing needs to come from environmentally friendly processes and ISO certified processes, the more pressure there is. But at this moment there is still quite a lot of pollution that is going on, and one of the things that one needs to do is one has to tackle both the source, the polluting industries, and work with the industries, and one also has to clean up the water. But it is not sufficient to only clean up. One also needs to help industries to be more prudent at the source.
The fact is that the China, Turkey and many other countries are there pushing their dyeing industries to go out from their countries. So they're coming to Bangladesh to make the cheapest dyeing fabrics, cheapest dyeing jeans. How Bangladesh, a country like Bangladesh, can protect that?
Well, as I just mentioned, there are various ways of doing that. One is to provide incentives and knowledge to industries, because industries can save money many times by doing that. We have seen that in a range of countries. The other thing is that the institutional strengthening with regard to enforcement of environmental regulations. The technologies are changing now. One can check with digital technologies what kind of effluence a company has. So there are better chances of enforcing nowadays of what kind of a quality, for instance, of effluent needs to come out of industries. So one can bring that together.
The figure you disclose is very exciting figure. It's the 1.5% of the total GDP. It's nearly $4 billion per year. $4 billion is much bigger than the donors' assistance to Bangladesh. Then how World Bank and the other cooperation agencies can push Bangladesh or the oblige Bangladesh government to use their money, to use their fund, being environmentally responsible? That, if you are environment responsible, you will get this fund, otherwise you will not.
Well, what we see as our role is to work in partnership with government, with civil society, with various institutions to, on the one hand, get access to that type of knowledge. We do most of our studies jointly, so that it is something that is shared knowledge. And the other thing that we do is we are able to finance a number of these things if government so wishes. So for instance, in the past years we have had a project that has looked at air pollution from brick kilns, which is a big issue. We now know, due to this project, that about 58% of the winter air pollution in Dhaka stems from brick kilns. And so we have been working to get this knowledge and to look at the possibility of finding technologies that permit to make bricks, because bricks are needed, they are important for the economy. The brick making also employs a lot of people, so that is also important. But there are technologies now that can bring down that air pollution to very, very small levels. And at the moment we are discussing on how one could bring those technologies to the brick kiln sector. So that is the type of thing that the World Bank can finance, or for instance with regard to urban air pollution on the vehicle side, and support that type of thing. So that is our role, to help bring that knowledge, and then in part we can finance, but there's also a lot of other financing partners, because these are big issues, and an institution like the World Bank would not be able to finance all of this.
We're going to break again, then come to again to have more answers. প্রিয় দর্শক, একটা বিরতিতে যাচ্ছি, বিরতির পর ফিরবো আবার পরিবেশ ইস্যু নিয়ে। প্রিয় দর্শক, ফিরে এলাম একাত্তর বিশেষ অর্থযুগে। এর আগে ছিলাম আমরা কারেন ক্যাপ্টেনের সাথে, আরও কিছু জানবো তার কাছে। কারেন, এনভায়রনমেন্ট ইস্যুস, again pollutions is a great thing to be traced out. Already you have worked out the pollutions. Is there really awareness for the mass people also? What do you feel that is our government is enough awareness is there among the government and the bureaucrats or the policymakers? What is the fact? They are aware about the pollutions?
From what I have seen during my brief visit now in the past days, there certainly is awareness around pollution at all different levels. As I was mentioning before, it is important to have the measurements for pollution so that one can act more on it, and also probably to bring that information out broader to civil society, so that also the population is very aware of.
And in water, our rivers are polluted, water bodies near the industrial areas, near the cities are polluted and already very unusable. How government can put focus there? And what is your experience in the other countries who work for environment globally?
So usually what other countries have done is looking at a combination of monitoring industries, of setting standards, enforcing standards, and then countries have chosen different ways of dealing with effluent. Some countries, they simply put a standard and then they enforce, and other countries have experimented with providing incentives for industries, and it depends on the country what works best in a country.
You were telling about forest, what you were telling me earlier. The forest issues is out of focus, quite out of focus now. Bangladesh is the one of the poor countries in terms of the forest ownership in the world. How government can refocus the forest sector, and how World Bank can support government there?
Well, we actually had a very successful project until recently with Bangladesh, and it focused on community-based forestry, which is a very important component.
It is a well-known project.
Yeah, yes. And so the important thing is that people really feel that they want to protect the trees and the forest themselves, and that it is not only induced by government, because we know that trees and forests do need to be nurtured. And that project was very successful, and at the moment we are preparing jointly with the government a follow-up project to that. And let me just tell about forest. The interesting thing here is that there are now scientific studies that show that, for instance, mangroves capture about 5 times as much carbon per hectare as do tropical forests. And that is very new research that has just come out and been published. And I think that for a country like Bangladesh, that is quite important, because the mangroves are important for the local livelihoods, because they provide nurseries for shrimp and for fish and for everything. But at the same time, they also help with buffering and adaptation against climate change. And they also capture carbon. And I think there's a big opportunity there that mangrove countries have perhaps not yet fully realized.
Do you have any project in planning to support the government to preserve the natural forest?
Yeah, it's a combination of what we would be doing, yes.
Are you planning any project, or any project is coming from any financing or any proposal coming from?
Yes, there is a project that is under preparation. On forests.
And what will be your biggest project in environment in Bangladesh? You see, in the coming years, in the next 2 or 3 years, what will be the biggest environment awareness or the preservation or support project in Bangladesh?
It is a project, well, let me talk about 2. One that is not maybe so big in money, but I think will have very, very good and important impacts. And the other one that is bigger in money, and that doesn't necessarily, people don't relate necessarily to environment. So the one that I find will be very impactful is related to micro-enterprises. Many people think that micro-enterprises, because they are so small, say the very tiny enterprise that makes shoes or that grows flowers or something, that they do everything very autonomously, everything. But one can actually make those enterprises green. And so this project will focus on greening micro-enterprises.
Fantastic idea. We'll talk more on the micro and macro issues, but another break now. প্রিয় দর্শক, আরেকটি বিরতি। পরিবেশ বিষয় নিয়ে আরো কথা বলবো কারিনের সাথে, তো আরেকটি বিরতির পর। প্রিয় দর্শক, ফিরে এলাম বিশেষ অর্থযোগে। আমরা আলোচনা করছি কারিন কেম্পারের সাথে, ওয়ার্ল্ড ব্যাংকের এনভায়রনমেন্ট ইস্যুস নিয়ে কাজ করেন তিনি, বাংলাদেশের স্বার্থের সাথে কাজ করেন। আমরা আবার ফিরবো তার কাছে। Karin, Kemper again on the environment issue. You said that you came to Bangladesh 2000, you told me about the 70 years back, and now what do you see the difference between the pollution and the other things in Dhaka, major metro city? What is the difference between the 70 years back and now?
Well, it's the main obvious thing that one can see is the air pollution. That's in the past couple of days that I've spent here, it has been quite nice weather, but yet one can feel the haze, and there's a very high air pollution index. And in the World Bank, we focus a lot also on the poor. And one of the things that one can see is that, of course, it is the poorest. We know that from a lot of our studies who have where there is the most impact, because it's very difficult to escape that type of thing.
We're running out of time. Let us go to far from the capital city to our sea. This is the blue economy. The ocean economy is much talked about in recent times about the potential of Bangladesh. It's in fresh conversation. Where do you see Bangladesh in blue economy?
I think that Bangladesh has a great opportunity with regard to the blue economy, and it is also a great leadership from the Prime Minister to have put blue economy really on the international scene from the Bangladesh side. And one of the reasons why Bangladesh has an especially big opportunity is that it has about as much economic zone in the sea nowadays as it has land mass. So what we understand in the context of blue economy is that one uses the ocean in a sustainable way for sustainable growth. So the two go together, both the sustainable growth and the sustainable ocean. So there Bangladesh has a great opportunity. It's clearly an ocean country. It's a blue economy country with many different sectors that are part of the blue economy. So everything from aquaculture to coastal tourism to deep sea fishing to industries that are along the ocean rim, there are great opportunities there, and there are great opportunities to do it in a sustainable way.
Don't you find any potential risk there, exploiting more economic activity in ocean? Will more pollution risk there? Don't you think?
I think that what I have been hearing over the past days is that the intention is to take advantage of the blue economy in the way that it is defined, and that means in a sustainable way. We know that globally the oceans are either fully fished or they are overfished. And there's a great awareness among countries that needs to be managed in order to be able to reap benefits over the long run. And we have seen that if one manages that and brings down the fishing in the case of some countries, that means that one has a long-term income for a long time. And because Bangladesh is just starting with that in its deep seas, I think that there is a good opportunity.
It's a good thing that Bangladesh yet to start, but yet to exploit mass the blue economy. Do you find any necessity that Bangladesh should prepare policies how to keep ocean unpolluted and exploit economy more?
Yes, I think that is a necessity, and that is what I understand also from discussions with government. That is the intention.
We are at that last part of our show. What is your suggestion to the government to build up environment awareness, to implement the effective activities, the successful activities in environment? What is your suggestion to the government now?
Yes. Part is to continue strengthening environmental capacity. I find that compared to when I was here last, some 8 years ago, that there really has been a great capacity increase with regard to environment. And that strengthening needs to continue.
In government or the other stakeholders also?
In government and in other stakeholders. That is very clear. Sometimes it is good when you have not been somewhere for a long time, because you can really see the change. But that said, we are all learning. So let me give you an example on global air pollution. Countries in Europe had thought that they had beaten air pollution. And now both Paris and London and a lot of cities in my home country, Germany, again have very strong air pollution. And they are now all discussing what they are going to do. and it is mainly from vehicles and some from industry, and it is perhaps not as much as in South Asia, but it is also significant. So everybody is learning, and everybody needs to have a sustained effort in the environmental field. So this is not something for South Asia alone or for developing countries alone. So that certainly is one thing. The other thing is to continue overall institutional strengthening at different levels, not only at the central government level, but also at the more decentralized levels, and to think about instruments, how to induce different stakeholders who are polluting stakeholders to shift how they are doing business and why they are polluting. So there certainly is still a big agenda ahead, but I'm quite confident that it is going in the right direction.
And those things have to be done if for sustainability. Thank you, Karin Kemper. Thank you very much because of delivering the very pointed out answers and what is really required by Bangladesh. Thank you again.
Thank you very much.
প্রিয় দর্শক, এতক্ষণ শুনলেন আপনার কারিন ক্যাম্পারের সাথে ফার্স্ট এক্সপেরিয়েন্স শি হ্যাজ ইন দ্য গ্লোবাল এনভায়রনমেন্ট ইস্যুজ এবং বাংলাদেশ সম্পর্কে তার এক্সপেরিয়েন্স 17 বছর আগে তিনি বাংলাদেশকে এসেছিলেন, দেখছিলেন এবং কম্পেয়ারও করলেন। তার যে সাজেশনগুলো বাংলাদেশের গভর্নমেন্ট এবং স্টেক হোল্ডার্সদের কাছে আমার কাছে মনে হলো যে এগুলো খুবই সিরিয়াসলি ভাবতে হবে। শুধু ভাবনা নয়, এগুলোকে ইমপ্লিমেন্টও করতে হবে, ভাবনাগুলোকে ইন্টেলিজেন্টলি ইমপ্লিমেন্ট করতে হবে খুব দ্রুত, কারণ সাস্টেনেবিলিটি টেকসই যে উন্নয়ন সেটাকে নিশ্চিত করা আমাদের সরকার সহ সবারই প্রতিশ্রুতি। আপনাদের সবাইকে অনেক অনেক ধন্যবাদ।